And it's 8 o'clock. And welcome to the intersection this morning. It's great to see folks here. We've already had a few announcements, but I'm going to jump right on into a little bit of mutual celebration this morning. This happened yesterday. I put it into the notification yesterday morning, kind of as a bonus, but I don't know how many people took time to actually watch our mayor present before the U.S. Conference of Mayors. So we're going to start with that. And it's just enough time to give a few more people opportunity to join in at the intersection this morning. So this happened yesterday in Washington, D.C. We've talked along the way about compassion effort happening here in San Antonio and moving across the United States. The U.S. Conference of Mayors right now is meeting in D.C. Immediately before the mayor spoke, it was the U.S. Surgeon General on loneliness and the importance of social connections. And following was the Secretary of State. But I'm just going to show you the presentation about San Antonio yesterday in DC. Can you see it?
Please welcome San Antonio Mayor Ron Nierenberg.
Good morning. Fellow mayors, it is an extraordinary honor to come bringing a gift in the spirit of the Surgeon General's call from my city to yours. As San Antonio's mayor and chair of the conference's Center for Compassionate and Equitable Cities, I want to introduce you to the 2023 campaign, Compassionate USA. Whether our daily decisions are about isolation and critical mental health services, or pandemic impact, recovery, and mass shootings, or policies and equitable budgets and issues of state, fundamental to the necessary shift in all of our work is the moral imperative and the skill development of compassion. It is the antidote to hate, to extremism, and to violence. It is the ethic of reciprocity. To treat others as we wish to be treated, to not treat others in ways we do not want to be treated, to give as we wish to receive. So please watch this preview of Compassionate USA.
As we reflect on the well-being of our cities, our nation, we must acknowledge the impact of all we have endured in recent years. The people we have lost, the injustices we encounter, the search for peace, unity, and solidarity. While it seems impossible to overcome today's challenges, there is power in our collective ability to transform our communities. Let us not rest until we know we have done everything we can to work toward compassion, to bring our neighbors together, to learn how to heal. Compassionate USA is a 6-part learning journey designed to teach self-compassion and community well-being that honors our common humanity and affirms the beauty of our differences. Join a people-centered campaign committed to creating compassionate cities. The journey starts with you. The journey continues with us. Compassionate USA.
Imagine if the first language of all children is compassion. You don't have to imagine it because it is. Locally, nationally, globally. Language reflects culture. Culture expresses community. Community informs actions. And actions speak louder than words. We can do this together. Instead of violence, let's have community gatherings of healing. Instead of extremism, let's discover our common humanity. Instead of polarization, let's set our tables with equity. Join together in an effort to help our communities learn, teach, and cultivate compassion. For updates, you can get it at compassionateusa.org, and the full program will officially launch at our next conference in June. We can do this because we are already compassionate. Research tells us that it's in our DNA. We can become even more so through education and through collaboration. And our collective goal is a country that is more compassionate because our cities are becoming more compassionate. We can do this. Together we can become a compassionate USA. Thank you for your time.
So I wanted to make sure that we all saw that this morning, because that's a part of who we are and our news going forward. That being produced here in San Antonio, but will go out throughout our entire country come June. So here we are, and I see that Beverly is with us, and so we're going to also jump right into at the intersection this morning. We're in part 3 of a 4-part series. It's very different, or I think it is, than what we have done before, where we normally get briefings of what's moving and happening and how we can be more informed and working more together. In fact, we'll start up again in February. The first Thursday in February, we'll be hearing about a violence prevention strategy that is forming in our city. And I know, as someone who's been kind of at this work for a couple decades now, we have come a long way to be working at that strategy, towards a strategy like that. So that will be February 2nd. February 9th, we're going to be hearing about the domestic violence prevention through the faith community from that collaborative, because they have a major event coming up on Valentine's Day. Love should not hurt in our faith and family homes. And so we're going to be shifting back to our normal, but for now we're in part 3. May be recorded for a 4-part series, and it's on based on a premise, but it's been playing itself out pretty clearly, that in the telling of our stories to each other, especially as leaders, but people in the community, what we can find out about each other and discover as our commonalities and what we share. So this morning we have with us our Chief Deputy City Manager, Maria Villagomez, and we also have Beverly Watts Davis, who leads the West Care Foundation here in the city. I have a feeling that these two women know each other and have encountered each other along the way and with their work. And so that part is not new probably to them, but it's going to be the sharing of their lives and what's brought them to today and leads them forward. So Maria and Beverly, thanks for agreeing to being a bit more vulnerable than maybe normal in conversation.
And I think Maria is having troubles getting audio connected, so maybe a few more minutes here.
Okay. In fact, I don't see her in the list. We might have
She's there, but with only video right now.
Okay. Thank you very much. So we'll start, I guess, with Beverly. And so Billy, keep me posted on Maria when you see that. So Beverly, let's just start with the basics, like where you were born. Maybe a little bit about.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you all hear me now?
Yes, we can, Maria.
Oh, thank you. Thank God. So I'm in.
Okay, you're in. So good. Your voice, we look forward to your face, but we'll go with the voice this morning. So I'll address this question to both of you. To kind of start with the basics of your life, where you were born, maybe just a little bit about the family you were born into, just the very basics of your life. So which one of you would like to go first? Beverly?
It seems from the chat that Beverly is also having a hard time with the audio.
We're having a thing, aren't we? Maria, would you mind going?
Of course.
First?
Of
Thanks.
course, yes. Well, I was born here in San Antonio, Texas. My parents were immigrants that came from Mexico, and they spent about 5 years of their life here in San Antonio, and I was born during those 5 years. Unfortunately, my parents were undocumented, and they were fearful for being deported and decided to go back to Mexico when I was about 1. So I grew up in Mexico.
Enter your meeting ID followed by pound.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So so that's a little bit about my family. My mom is still alive. My dad passed away about 13 years ago, and both very hardworking individuals. My dad had a body shop in Mexico, and that was the main source of income for the family. My mom was a stay-home mom. However, she always did things to kind of help with pay the bills, etc. So she used to make dresses for our local school and other individuals that would hire her services. So very fortunate to be in a family that had very strong values. Being fortunate to be born in a Catholic family, we were very close to the church, especially my mom. So I learned a great deal from her in terms of being strong in our faith and living to our faith. I have one sister. My sister is 4 years older than me, and she still lives in Mexico. My mom now lives here with us in San Antonio. Unfortunately, she has dementia, so she needs to be cared for, and we're very blessed to have her here with us. So that's a little bit about me.
Oh, Maria, that is so rich to hear. When did you move back to San Antonio? You're born here, and then you moved to Mexico when you were 1. And when did you come back? Did I miss that moment?
And I did not share that. So after I completed high school in Mexico, as you can imagine, my family did not have the means to send me to a university in Mexico. So I have family here in San Antonio, Texas, and one of my cousins who was visiting us told me, well, you being a U.S. citizen, you will have opportunities if you move to San Antonio to go to school. So so I moved to San Antonio when I was 18, and I did not speak English at the time. So I started at San Antonio College, first of all, to learn English. And then once I was comfortable with that, I started my regular classes at San Antonio College, and then transferred to UTSA, and that's where I graduated from.
Reverend, that was exciting to hear. What did you think about all that, Beverly?
I am just in awe of her when she literally said that, when she didn't speak English, that she literally attended San Antonio College and she was learning to speak English first. And Maria, I mean, I'm one of your fans, and I look at you and because I know people who work for you, I listen to them talk about you, and they understand very clearly that you are absolutely a leader. You get what you tell people what you want. You're clear in your direction. You move this city along in many, many ways. And this is and it's really interesting if I had to visualize you, I would imagine you being like 6'2" or something like that, but you are, as I tell people, I said, she's a little bit of dynamite. but it tells me, it speaks volumes of you. I had the pleasure to work with you on the facilities committee for the bond. You're a consummate professional, and you are a great leader, and you handle people, and I really say handle in a positive way. You're able to handle coalitions of people getting things done and keep us all rowing in the same direction to get us to the goal. You're a great quarterback and coach.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you so much, Beverly.
Yeah. So Beverly, tell us a little bit about your basics, where you're born, family, just the basics.
Okay, I believe it or not, San Antonio, I was actually born in Cincinnati, but it was only because my parents, who were in San Antonio, my father was in the military, so he was at the Air Force. He was both at Lackland and then at Randolph, and they took a trip to go visit my grandmother when they were pregnant with me. And so while they were visiting my grandmother, I decided I wanted to come into the world. And so I literally,
doing good.
Hi, Reverend Kemp. But literally, so I decided to come while they were literally visiting my grandmother. So I was actually born in Cincinnati, Ohio. And then we came back here. I mean, off and on. My father, we went to South Dakota, then we came back here. And then, so I've been here most of my life. And we went to Florida, which is where the first time we were really, I had my formal schooling outside San Antonio, outside of Texas. And it was when we were at Pensacola, and in Pensacola, Florida, we're at the Air Force Base there. My dad was on a special assignment there. And so my sister and I actually started school there. And after that, we came here to San Antonio. And so I'm really a San Antonio girl. And I'm as I said, I tell people all the time, although I wasn't born here, I tried to get here as fast as I could. I was blessed with one sister, and both my sister and I, we're literally 6 hours apart in birthday. She was born on August the 11th, and a year later, I was actually born on August 12th. So we always celebrated our birthdays together, which made us incredibly close. And I had a wonderful mom and dad. Both my parents were they're strong in their faith and strong in their work ethic. My mother was from the West Indies. And for those, people make jokes about it, but it is really true. In the West Indies, if you don't have 3 jobs, then you're really just lazy. And so all of my life, I've always had, when I was 8 years old, I had a paper route. As soon as I got old enough to babysit, I had paper route and babysat. And, and then as soon as I got older, then I went to work in a restaurant. So it's just, and I was always doing all of that at the same time. So it was, I'm really pleased that my parents instilled that in me. But we do, all of our family has a very strong work ethic, but we, so I'm, that's really kind of my basics and fundamental: church and work and family.
Church, work, family. You each have one sister and strong work ethic. Wow. That takes us
You
to,
picked a good pair.
What?
You picked a good pair.
I know. I had no idea. In fact, I think it was Bill Neely who suggested this unique pairing to me from Sacred. So it was like, well, that would be a good pair. So,
thank you, Bill.
I'm guessing there probably were moments, but could each of you maybe point to a moment in your life that was that determined, kind of the journey that you would be on, or it was maybe a major shift or a turn on your journey that led you to where you are today? Is there a moment that you could share with us?
Sure.
You go first.
Thank you, Beverly, and that's an amazing story of yours. I can't believe we both have just one sister. Well, professionally, what led me to where I am today was really advice from my father. He was involved in politics in Mexico in a small way. And he would always tell me that if I needed to make a difference, local government was the place to work. He also believed that working in a government job of any kind was a secure place to have a career and make a living. So that's one of the reasons why I started my career with the city of San Antonio because his advice in local government making a difference in a community. So that's kind of like the moment that conversation I had with my dad at an early age, and seeing him getting involved and helping those that needed the most was what led me to be interested in local government.
Mm.
Oh. Well, mine is not so much. This is a story that helped to shape my life and how I saw people, and it has served me well. When we were, as I said, the one time that we lived in Florida, it was in Pensacola, Florida, because we were military, they didn't have a school on the base, so we had to go to the school in the community. And so because we were African American, my mother, when we went to schools, they only showed her certain schools. And they took my mother to a school and said, well, this is where your children will go. And when we went into this school, it was literally a kind of a one-room building. And the children, my mother saw the books that the children, they were torn, pages were falling out. And in the back of the room, there was a big, huge ice block. And on the ice block was the little cartons of milk. And that's how the milk was to get cold. They didn't even have a refrigerator. And my mother said, my children will not be doing this. Now, my mother just was one who, when she wanted something, she wanted it. She didn't take no for an answer. I think I got that from her. But she went back to the military base and said, my children will not have less of an education than me. They will not attend this school. And I remember she wrote to Kennedy, to the Attorney General at that time, which was Robert Kennedy. And she said, this is not acceptable. And they literally had my sister and I go to the school that all the other children go to. So we were the only African Americans. And I remember when we went to the school, going up to the school, they had the national, I didn't realize this then, but the National Guard was there to help us in because people had lined up along trying to, they were angry that we were going to that school. And as we walked there, my mother said, you hold up your heads and you smile at everyone, no matter what they say or do to you. You smile at them and you say hello and you give them their respect. And that seemed like the longest walk in our life because she had both me and my sister on her hands, and we walked in there. And my sister had actually started school a year earlier in Ohio, but when she got to Florida, they said because she was African American that she couldn't be smart. She couldn't have been smart. So they put her back a grade, which actually was a wonderful thing for our life because we went through school together as if we had been born in the same year. And in doing so, I remember that event. But what really changed that for me is I had a teacher that literally was obviously very angry that we were in. Now they did put us in separate classrooms, and she would make, as little kids do after your snack time or lunchtime, all the kids would line up to go to the bathroom. And this teacher would always make me be in the very last one, so that by the time that I got to go to the bathroom, she would say, time's up, and you couldn't go. Now, this was a turning point for me in my life. There was, I will never forget, her name was Katie and Megan. And these girls organized the little girls in my classroom. They saw what was happening to me and they knew it was wrong. And they organized the little girls in my classroom so that whenever the girls went to the bathroom, they would all take longer so that I could get a chance to use the bathroom. I never forgot that. Because these young girls, we were all 6 years old, and they knew enough to know that something was wrong and to do something about it. That shaped the vision in my head about people in general, that all people can come in different shapes and sizes, but right is right, and you just do right. And those little girls, I will never forget them. It was just amazing because they defended me. And so it shaped my outlook on life for the rest of my life about people in general. So that really was the most watershed event that for me, that started when that it shaped my worldview.
Wow. How fortunate, 6 years old. And listening to both of you, how your parents were like long moments in your life. I mean, they they shaped your mother saying, nope, this isn't going to happen. And Maria, your dad, like, this is where you need to head. This will do it for you, Wow. Not everybody can say that, right? About parents or young experiences of standing up for others, or talk about formative. I'm curious, Maria, how long have you been with the city, and what was your first position with the city?
So I've been with the city 25 years, and I started as an accountant in what is today the Solid Waste Department. Back then, it was part of the Public Works Department. So of the 25 years that I've been with the city, I spent the first 9 with Public Works. And, something of note, I was early in my career because I started with the city in 1997. In 1998, we had the big flood that perhaps most of you remember. And that was one of the big projects that I had. And I remember as part of that process with the city, we went to those homes that were flooded. And it was a combination in some areas of town. We had trailer park homes that were totally destroyed. And then we had water that went into some of the homes as well. So seeing the need of the community as we were trying to help them with financially to solve the immediate needs that they were facing was very powerful. And early in my career, to kind of inside of me tell me, yes, you're in the right place. I was actually doing what my dad said I could do if I was in local government.
And Beverly, I know that you've had a long journey as well with government and civic engagement. How long have you been at this work? Because I know you've been in different spots.
Honestly, you all, I think I've been at work. My sister and I, we were, as I said, my mother put us into everything that she could. And I was sharing with someone this past week about experiences and being exposed to things. And I think that's really what has just sort of added to my toolkit, because my mom just put us into everything. But for all of my life, it was important. Part of our faith is to be serving people. So my mom was part of what was called family services that's on military bases. And so she was always very good about helping families. She was really kind of like this unofficial counselor to a lot of people. And so I remember just seeing this, but even in high school, I was our class president, and we had organized. I was at Judson, and I remember hearing the blood bank didn't have enough blood, and so they had never really gone to high schools or got blood from young people. And so I remember Crystal Stanton was their coordinator. I'll never forget her. And I said, well, why don't you get blood from us young people? And she was like, Beverly, I don't think they'll let us do it. And I said, well, let's go talk to them. Who do we need to talk to? And anyway, we talked to a number of people, and we hosted our first blood drive, and they filled up the bank. And from then on, they began to start, also allowing young people to give blood. But all throughout my life, my mom, whether it was Brownies, Girl Scouts, we were in ballet, all of these, she always would tell us to just do your best. And if the opportunities come, you can step forward. And both my father and mother encouraged that.
Wow. So early on, you were civically engaged. But I know you've also done work in DC, as well as coming back to share your skill sets here, back to your home. What did you do in DC? Remind us.
So I was with the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services with the agency called the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, and actually going in as there are 3 different centers under there. It was the Center for Substance Abuse Prevention, the Center for Substance Abuse Treatment, and the Center for Mental Health Services. And so I was selected to to lead the Center for Substance Abuse Prevention. And I will tell you, you all, it was San Antonio that gave me really my story there, because before going to San Antonio, I worked with United Way as a senior VP, and I ran Fighting Back, which is now run by Mr. Mitchell. But we started Fighting Back, which really it was very much a grassroots coalition that was on the East Side and constantly really working to change a number of things. We worked very closely with the police chief at that time, who was Chief McManus, and we worked hand in hand with him to really turn things around in the East Side of San Antonio. When we started, we had the third highest crime rate in the nation, and 6 years later, we ended up having the third lowest crime rate. But we worked hand in hand with the police to really kind of change that whole area, which was overrun with drugs and crime and just lots of not very good things happening in the community. So I took my skills and went there and mobilized up there, just mobilized the federal government. I got in a lot of good trouble. I got in a lot of good trouble, but I had a wonderful, wonderful assistant secretary who really he would just say, Beverly, listen, this is our issue. We're going to wind you up and let you go. And so we really did. We got a lot of great things done. And I stayed. It passed so fast. I didn't realize, but I was there for 10 years. It just went so fast. But I was coming home almost every weekend, so I was still active in the community. You know, I'd come home and do stuff in the community and go back on Monday. So it was a true blessing and a real experience.
So I'm going to take a pause. Are both of you able to stay a few more minutes? Beverly says yes. Great. Yes. So it's 8:31, and I just want to pause for a moment for those I know that might need to leave at this time. We tried to kind of get the bulk of information between 8 and 8:30, and so we've gotten a lot of both Beverly and Maria's story. I'm going to plant a question with both of you. You have a couple minutes to think about it, but since we are in January, MLK and DreamWeek, I want to invite you both to take a moment and reflect on what your dream is for the future. And that could be with San Antonio or for yourself, but take a moment to think about that. I invite everyone to come back next week. Beverly talked a little bit about working with Chief McManus, but he'll be with us next week, Chief of Police, along with Christy Alsagar, who is works, as I understand, with the Jewish Federation, but is contracted with communities in school. And so I'm really excited. I'm certain they don't know each other, but I think it's going to be a unique conversation. So I hope that all of you are able to join us next Thursday at the intersection. And as I said earlier, the first Thursday in February, we're going to be hearing about a violence prevention strategy that's going to be formed this year through community partnering with the city and moving that forward. So I'm excited to hear about that. And the following week, we're going to be hearing from the Domestic Violence Prevention through the Faith Community Collaborative on all of the work that they have been doing, working towards a major event on Valentine's Day, Love Should Not Hurt in Our Faith and Family Homes. So we've got things coming up down the road, and it's probably given Maria and Beverly a chance to think about their dream. So which one would like to go first about what's your dream?
Maria, go ahead.
Thank you, Beverly. I participated on Monday on the MLK March, and it was amazing to see so many people come together again, sharing their thoughts and just being community. So my dream is that here in San Antonio, that we become a powerful community where we help each other, where we care for each other, and that we're all of us doing the very best that we can do to make our community better.
Thank you.
And she has set the framework, I think, for many people throughout this. But mine is similar in that I I really want this year. I want to really work very much on generational poverty, and really begin to really help see if we can move people on through a continuum of care. I've been saying this, and I know that it sometimes is unsettling. Within our field, I want to be able to not just help people get better. I want to be able to help people get well. Better is for me is no longer good enough. We've got to be able to make sure we can help people move along the continuum that gets them out of addictive behaviors, and all of the things, the harm that causes in their families and in communities. And I want to be able to see us. I want to see equity, that everybody, all children in this city, receive equitable service. I have to give a shout out to Dr. Wu from the health department. She has been a champion of equity, and during the vaccine, I saw and felt her presence as we wanted to make sure that people in our community got the vaccines and access to vaccinations and things like that. I think that's really important, just equity in things that matter, such as health and housing, and economic opportunity, so that you can achieve the things that you wish for yourself and your families. But equity, and equity to really address generational poverty.
I think from listening to both of your dreams and who we are as a city and your leadership, I mean, we have an equity budget. I mean, talk about putting our values into action. I mean, that can be one of the last steps, if ever a step that's taken. And yet our city, works on an equity budget. And that's huge. And I'm sure, Maria, that you are a part of that and making that happen. It takes time. We could probably have another question and conversation about what all you both have seen in your years of service, the things that have changed slowly. It takes time, right? Because I know that for myself, that I know there are changes from 30 years ago. Just having this violence prevention strategy being looked at and what I was doing here 30 years ago. So that, I don't know, we got a few more minutes maybe, but maybe each of you could mention one thing that you have seen in our city in mutual work that has taken steps towards the dreams that you have. Like, what have you seen change that has moved, that's moving in what you think is the right direction?
Right. One thing that I've seen over the past probably 6 years or so, and as you say, we change takes time, and we're a large organization, and some of the initiatives take time to be able to implement them across all of our city departments. But there's really an emphasis to be more impactful on the work that we do, to help and identify those individuals that need it the most. And I'll give you an example. Years ago, maybe 12, 13 years ago, when we were doing budget cuts in the departments for purposes of the budget, we were focusing on attendance on parks community centers. And we ended up closing some centers that have very low attendance. Looking back on what I know today and the work that we're doing on equity and being more impactful and trying to understand the barriers that people face to be able to participate in the services that we provide, we actually ended up closing some of those centers in those areas of the city where there's a high equity index. So knowing what I know today and how intentional we are now, we would have handled that totally different. So I'm pretty proud in terms of the work that we're doing to be more mindful and thoughtful of our decisions. By no means we're perfect, and we learn every day as we work with stakeholder groups like this group on how we can do better. But I've seen that change in our approach, and I think we listen more. We pay more attention to what you share with us to ensure that we are providing that service that is meaningful to the community and helping those individuals that for some reason don't have the same advantages that other people have within our same city. So that's one example that of the equity work that we have done. And again, it's taking time, but I think we are definitely moving in the right direction.
Well, for me, in terms of mainly because my focus is honestly for all my career and most of my life has been on the east side. It was an extended part of our family, and I do think that one of the things that I have seen over the years, and I misspoke when I had said working with Chief McManus. I actually meant his predecessor was Chief Philippus, and both of them have an U.S. at the end of their name. But Chief Philippus, I'm working with them to actually improve police and community relations. I know that many may think that has gotten worse, but it actually, watching the long haul, San Antonio was really actually one of the first to have AmeriCorps, and we mixed and it actually came through, people don't realize it's through the police department. And at that time, Chief Philippus said, this really is kind of not our lane, and asked us and that's actually how I've been working with AmeriCorps since we were one of the first corps in the country since that point. But watching the police community relations, and I think over the long period of time to see it evolve from, going back to where we had community policing officers, the bike patrol, our safe officers, which people love their safe officers. I think that has been really something that has grown, but also just being on the east side, watching the incremental change as things have gotten better. That's been so very, very important. And everything, and just as you had said, none of us are successful by ourselves, and nothing is accomplished by one person. Coalitions and people coming together and coalescing to do collective problem solving that will have a collective impact. I have seen that grow over the years, and I'm so pleased because I've always believed in the power of the many to be able to make change. And I think that it is becoming a way that people do business, which I think is so great, because it is really the impact of the many, on a very multifaceted, multi-sector problems. And that's how we've been able to make change in our community. And that has truly resulted in there being much more assets and resources in different parts of our communities, and people coming together to make sure that happens. You being one of them, Ann, and then also the engagement of the church, of the faith-based community in problem solving, openly in problem solving, to address issues such as mental health. Under the leadership of Doug Beach and NAMI, and really doing Bridges to Care. Watching Reverend Kemp, who has been a stalwart in our community, just to be able to help spread that and get pastors comfortable with talking about mental health. It's been wonderful to see that, because it feels differently. There's a different tone, if you will, about kind of how we interact with each other and how we approach each other. It's not what's wrong with you, it's what has happened to you to cause these things. And that approach is spilling over into even how we address criminal justice issues, and people been involved in some maybe negative behavior, and just a different approach to how we look at mankind. And I have to thank you, Ann, for that, because putting that sheath, that umbrella over it, we're not leading necessarily with the gun or the baton. We're leading with love and compassion, and that totally changes both how you approach a situation, but it also changes the response that you get. So those are the things that I think have changed.
What words, both of yours, to end with, because it's always important, and we don't do it enough, to look at our history and the movement, especially when things are kind of rough and aren't going well. I think as humans, we tend to, like you said, the baton, we tend to strike back or in words and actions, but also to kind of take a longer view. How has there been movement? And there has been. And none of us are perfect, but working together in different ways really does help that moral arc, right? Bend towards justice. So I want to thank you both for today. Truly, thank you both for today and your leadership. Both of you are strong. And Maria, I think you are one of our most constants at the intersection. I don't know if you know that, but I've never looked, but you might have been here at least as much as the mayor. But so go you to be so brave to come in front of this group of people. And I mean that in the best of ways. So thank you all for being with us this morning. It's a beautiful day. And if you haven't had your vitamin D yet, make sure you go outside at least to spend a moment being grateful for the day, that we have one more day to be doing this work together. So thank you all for your commitment to San Antonio and your time this morning. We'll see you all next week at the intersection.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.